let's start with you, if you're okay, and tell us about the DFC. And we know it's formed in the last couple of years. Tell us about the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. What does it do, and what regions and sectors areas of DFC over the next 5 years? Mr. Başar is also here. Hello.
Yeah, great.
Hello.
So first of all, thank you to the organizers and thank you to Congressman Bacchus for the.
Hey, we cannot hear you. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, thank you for the invitation to participate. Thank you to Congressman Bacchus for the opening remarks, and thank you for the question. My name is Stone. I work here at the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. DFC is the U.S. government's development finance institution. We launched last year. We work alongside Export-Import Bank. We're the successor agency to OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. For those who are familiar with OPIC, they were quite active in Turkey. We have approximately $30 billion in exposure and active investments around the world currently, and an investment cap of $60 billion. So we have significant capital available to deploy. We focus on supporting highly developmental projects in lower and middle income countries, as defined by the World Bank. Of the $30 billion we currently have invested, approximately a third of that total exposure is in Africa. And Africa is expected to continue to be a priority for us over the next few years. Together, the Indo-Pacific and Latin America comprise approximately another third of our portfolio, and the rest of the world is the remaining 30%. And just to note, we currently have over $1 billion in active investments in Turkey, and it's one of our more significant country footprints right now around the world. In terms of sectors, DFC has focuses on critical infrastructure, energy, technology, financial services, agriculture, and health. DFC recently launched a $2 billion initiative to help the developing world respond to COVID and build more resilient health systems in the future. Within infrastructure, our focuses are one, transportation. We finance port projects, road projects, airport projects, and rail projects around the world. You may have seen a recent announcement that DFC is potentially going to finance the Peace Highway between Serbia and Kosovo. It's an interesting project for us. Within energy, we support generation and transmission projects. 2 weeks ago, our board approved a $200 million loan for a 420 megawatt gas power plant in Mozambique and 25 kilometers of associated transmission lines, which we think is going to be an impactful investment. And then we've also made a number of health-related infrastructure investments around the world, hospital construction, desalinization, et cetera. We also have a new mandate to support energy projects in Europe and Eurasia. And so historically, we haven't had a very large portfolio in Central and Eastern Europe, but we're expecting that to grow over the next few years with this new mandate. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stone. And it's interesting that you're also focusing not only Africa, but also Central Asia, Central Eastern Europe. We are, historically Turks have been doing a lot of work there. And I think we have some echo issues with the microphone. Let me ask turn to Mr. Başar Arıoğlu. Başar, in which construction and investment projects, has Yapı Merkezi participated in Africa? Because Africa is one of the key focus areas for us. And what are the ways of doing business there and the financing and structures you have in Africa?
Thank you very much, Burak. We have quite a number of references in Africa. We have been working in Algeria, Morocco, Sudan, Senegal, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and we are chasing some projects in places like Kenya and Rwanda and in many various countries around Africa. Very important.
Başar, before we go, can I ask Ebru and Hayden to turn off the microphone because I think it's echoing.
Okay. This challenge in needed for and you know we have financed these in Morocco and Algeria. Our projects were not financed by us, and they were financed by the government themselves. But in Ethiopia, we have provided 1.45 billion financing. In Tanzania, we have provided 1.5 billion financing. In Sudan, we provided for 2 projects about $100 million financing. And in Senegal, we have provided something like 150 million euros of financing for that project to help the government finance these important projects. All of our projects in Africa have been related with railways or railway technology, except for Sudan, where we built 2 highway bridges over the river Nile. In finding this financing for these projects, we have extensively used ECAs. And in many cases, we have used several ECAs in one project. In Ethiopia, we had 5 European ECAs and also Turkish Exim Bank. So altogether 6. In Tanzania, we have 8 ECAs actually, to bring together something like 1 billion ECA credit for the project, for the out of the 1.5 financing we have arranged for them. So this kind of financing, ECA financing, requires us to be very flexible in sourcing the materials for the project. And in general, we don't even know where we are going to be sourcing the materials from at the time of the tender. If we are successful and we win the project, then we start looking for the best way to arrange the financing, and then we have to structure our procurement according to from which countries we can find the ECA credits. So it is a very iterative process, and you have to be very fast and very flexible in doing this. So I mean, this is what I'm going to say at this point, and maybe you can ask me further questions later along the way.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you said, maybe moments earlier, we were talking with Congressman from US Exim Bank, the board member. And actually, you know, taking our panel, you know, is because it's about Turkish and American relationship. Is actually here the Turkish Exim Bank and the US Exim Bank relationship is very important, and sourcing the right technology from the right countries is very important here. I think your experience will bring a lot of things on the table. Thank you very much. And Ebru, I mean, coming back to you, Turkey has witnessed a lot of, you know, remarkable growth in the critical infrastructure in the last decade, from bridges, highways, high-speed trains, and of course the airport, the largest airport in the world. You are involved, and the Dardanelles Connector Bridge. Can you tell me how these prepare Turkey for the major projects abroad? What have you learned, and how does it prepare you?
First of all, thank you for the invitation, and we have to be sorry to the audience regarding this long wait. But you know, I think it's not in our hands, but it's in the hands of someone that's in the overseas or something like that. But it's sorry to keep everybody waiting. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and wish that this year's conference is a great success to both parties. Because, you know, regardless to ups and downs, our bilateral relations, and despite the pandemic, I think there is enormous mutual interest and mutual respect from both parties. So that TAIK conference has been ongoing for years. And it's very good to see that there's a lot of participation from both sides. As you have mentioned, globally, the Turkish construction and the infrastructure sector has witnessed a global or remarkable growth in Turkey and also abroad. And I can clearly say that I think the construction sector and the infrastructure sector, where I'm a member and where also Başar is a member, is now a brand. I can easily say that it's a global brand. And in this year's ENR listings, Turkish contractors are now the second after China. And we are very consistent because last year we were the same scores. And we have 44 Turkish companies in that list. In ENR's Global 250 this year, which is actually last year. And both Yapı, Merkezi and Limak, my company, are in the list, and we are gradually climbing. This year we were 61st. And the growth is also, I have to say that the growth is not only in the numbers, but also in the size, but also in the terms of expertise, experience, and most importantly, reputation. Because Turkish companies have successfully, also Başar has mentioned, many in Africa, our success, our expertise and experience doubled with all our experience in PPPs, our quality of the construction that we have delivered, our speed of construction, and this made the Turkish construction and the infrastructure sector very attractive. And we are really very sought for all over the world. So as you have said, I think this is actually a result of the successful projects that was launched in Turkey, thanks to our government, our president, but we have completed many complex, symbolic and mega projects in Turkey, and this makes us be more experienced, and this increased our capabilities, our competence and capacity. Also, this clearly increased our confidence as contractors, where we believe that we can build anything, anywhere, even their most complex, all around the world. So the Turkish construction sector, we have expanded our horizon and our boundaries. We were in easier countries before, like Russia, Iraq, Libya, Saudi Arabia, but we are looking now to North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and we are in Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan, Ghana, Senegal, everywhere that you can think of. And we are now in various sectors, as you have mentioned, in PPPs as well. With Turkish companies, I think we are ready to take up a lot of projects, and we are the rising star. And I just want to give you two examples, and then I'll finish answering your question. For example, the Senegal airport with another Turkish contractor, Summa, we have completed the 30% of the job in 7 months, where the previous contractor finished 70% in 7 years. So this is a very significant, I think, amount of work completed in short time, and we started to operate it afterwards. And this is clearly showing that Turkish contractors can deliver. And the other one is we are currently building a $4.3 billion of airport project in Kuwait. This is like the biggest project that a Turkish contractor was awarded outside Turkey in one package. We can multiply these examples as Yapı Merkezi has given. But this is, I clearly have to say one more time before I finish, is the experience that we have earned in our homeland is now makes us complete more complex projects in very difficult environments all over the world. And I think this is very important.
Thank you very much, Ebru. And for sure, it brought a lot of confidence. I mean, when we look at ourselves 20 years ago, it's much different now. having completed all these projects. And as I said, as you also mentioned, both Ebru and Başar are also board members of the Turkish Contractors Association. And then we have 44 companies in the ENR list last year from the 250 top contractors in the world. And they're growing in size and volume as well, and we're proud to see that. And we would love to cooperate with our American friends in places like Africa and Central Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Mr. Stone, about DFC, what are the limitations for investment for DFC? As we've been talking about, serious partnership here. As you see, the Turkish contractors are doing a lot of work in Africa as EPC, and also now more PPPs and BOTs. And when you think about corporations, what are the limitations that DFC has, and what should that we should be aware of, or can you tell us about it?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So as I mentioned, we work primarily in lower and middle income countries as defined by the World Bank. So we're open for business across the African continent in every country with the exception of Sudan. And as I mentioned, we can support energy projects in higher income countries in Europe and Eurasia as well. And so our financial tools, we can offer debt financing, loans ranging from $1 million up to $1 billion for larger infrastructure projects. We offer political risk insurance. We have the ability to make small equity investments. And we now also have the ability to offer certain funding for technical assistance and feasibility studies. And so we can provide these financial tools to projects that adhere to high social and environmental standards, IFC standards. And we're careful not to crowd out private capital. So we have certain additionality requirements that have to be met for DFC to finance projects. For debt financing, at least 30% private sector co-investment is required for DFC to provide a loan. A private sponsor also has to apply for DFC financing to be considered. For equity investments, DFC can invest up to 30% of total valuation of a company, up to 30%. And just a couple other points. We have certain limitations on working with state-owned enterprises, but we have in the past, and we do have that ability. And we have a preference for working with U.S. companies, but it's not a requirement. So, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And one quick question: the preference with U.S. companies, would a joint venture of U.S.-Turkish company would qualify as a U.S. company?
Yep, I think that would qualify. And like I said, it's just a preference, so we could provide financing directly to a Turkish company as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Başar, how do you see the opportunities in Africa between opportunities as projects, businesses, and opportunities as Turkish American companies together, or Turkish American financing together?
Thank you, Burak. I think there are many opportunities to go as a joint venture, American contractor with Turkish contractor, or even with European contractors, especially in PPP and BOT type of projects. This would make a lot of sense. And what projects where contractor, but a lot of materials from European countries which have ECA financing. So if American Exim Bank is interested, we can do our sourcing through American companies, suppliers, and maybe use subcontractors from the United States. We have done several tries, but so far without success in this regard. But we will keep trying, and I think if we can be flexible enough on both sides, then I think we can find the opportunities to develop in this regard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Maybe I should ask the same question to Ebru, with a special emphasis on PPPs and you know, what we learned from PPP models from Turkey and how we can export that, or how you are already exporting that experience to other countries.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me answer you a little bit on Africa, because if you look at the macro figures, surely there's a huge growing demand there. I mean, because the population is increasing. For example, to give you an example on Nigeria, in 1990, the population in the country was 95 million. 2020, it's 200 million. And 2050, the projections tell that even Nigeria's population will be over 400 million. So the population increase in all over the continent is very high. And Africa continent is projected to be the most populated geography on the planet by 2050. So what does it mean? I mean, you know, just in a nutshell, it means new hospitals, new houses, new airports, new schools, new infrastructure. So this is the reason, from even these figures, we have to see huge potential in Africa. And as you have mentioned, we are all board members in the Turkish Contractors Association. And now our focus is now, and we are discussing a lot about sub-Saharan Africa, where the potential is bigger. And if you look at the current numbers, we also see that this part of the Africa has not been discovered yet by Turkish companies. I'm not even coming to the American companies. I mean, like, you know, Turkish, we are more entrepreneurs on that way, because we're still very traditional. I mean, the top 6 countries that we work is like Russia, Ukraine, Croatia, Iraq, Georgia, and Qatar. So as Turkish companies, with, as Başar said, with American collaboration, we have to look further away and focus on Africa, and especially sub-Saharan Africa. And there is a very big potential there. And as you have said, regarding the PPPs, I think in Turkey we have completed a lot of successful projects. I'm in the board of the PPP committee in the United Nations, and they ask us to go to all different countries to explain or to tell the Turkish model of PPPs. And now I can clearly say that the Turkish contractors, we are a global brand, but now we have a global Turkish model in the PPPs, and the infrastructure plays an important role. And one figure is the infrastructure investments, if it's increased by 1%, it could increase the GDP by 1.2%. So the building blocks, how can you make a good PPP is like, you have to have a comprehensive legal framework, very important, a capacity and the political will to build these projects, to build these PPPs. I think this is a big asset in Turkey, where our government and our president, all the ministers are really focused on to do that. Stability, you have to have a stable environment, especially economical and financial, as the project finance that we make is more than generally 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because these are big projects. Prioritization, you have to choose a project that's suitable for PPP. You cannot build every project on a PPP basis. And the feasibility studies that has to be agreed between the partners, public and the private, beforehand. So if you could put all these pillars together, where I think in Turkey we have done that, it could be really successful.
Thank you very much. You wrapped it in a very short time, very, very skillfully. Thank you. I mean, I think, like, to wrap up what we've been talking about, I think for cooperation in Africa or you know, other regions, I think we mentioned about JVs making sense together. Financing is very important, bringing financing especially, and through PPPs to focus on right projects and try to develop PPP and BOTs. That's what we focused. Sourcing from, using the ECAs, really sourcing the right technology and materials from Europe or America or Turkey or other places is very important. I think Africa, especially talking about Africa, it's not an easy place. It's a developing, more developing world, and we need to be flexible there. I think we need to develop relations and also try to transfer as much know-how as possible. I think we Turks are usually good in that. We try to transfer the know-how to the local people, try to train them and develop our own local workforce, so to say, which also helps develop the economy. And also, China has been seriously very active in Africa in the past 20 plus years. So this is also, we also cooperate with Chinese in some areas maybe, but for Africa, I think now this US-Turkey cooperation, as we did with Turkey-Japan cooperation for Africa, is very important to have a foothold and try to develop the country in a better way. That's very important. And I think, as you know, in the Turkish, the TAIK and US Chamber study, together with our respective ministries, Ministry of Trade and Commerce and in the US counterpart, we did the study to increase the trade level to $100 billion. Construction is somehow, playing one of the largest roles in this respect, and we are happy to put that in the agenda. I tried a lot for that for myself, but I'm happy to see that we can reach up to $15 billion a year by using Turkish and American force together. Currently Turkey is building up to $20-30 billion a year construction abroad, and we could increase on top of that, add more volume. We see that we could reach about $60-65 billion until 2030 of construction in Africa. So this will help us reach our trade volume, at least get close to 100 billion a year. But having said that, maybe it is, because we are also 45 minutes late, and I see we are on time according to when we started. Let me hear very short, brief remarks before we close this session, and I want to thank everyone for participating. Let me start with Mr. Stone, and then I will pass to Mr. Arıoğlu, and then finally wrap up with Ebru Özdemir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks again for the invitation to participate. And we're always interested in looking at potential projects that we can support that are developmental and highly impactful. And so working with Turkish companies is always interesting if we can find projects that we can collaborate together on. So thanks again.
Başar?
If you'd like, I jump in while we are waiting for Başar.
Please.
Okay, it's very nice to hear good, project opportunities from Mr. Hayden Stone. But I'd like to add something about the post-COVID period, because there is now, I think, there's more potential between Turkish and American cooperation in the post-COVID, because the rules of the global economy and global trade are changing, and most countries have already started to rethink their economic trade and a relationship in a nutshell with China. So there is a great search for next global supplier. And as the pandemic has disrupted the global supply chains and current mechanisms, I believe that we have to, as Turkish contractors, where we have to do a lot of supply from all over the world, we have to look everything differently. And we feel like Turkey and Turkish economy, we have a very big advantage here where we can cooperate with American companies. You know, China first started the African initiative. However, Turkey's African initiative has dated back to 2002. So for the past 18 years, actually, Turkey and China are the only two countries in Africa who's really working hard with Turkish construction companies, with Turkish private sector, with the Turkish government. So we feel like our countries and our diplomacy soft power is there. So Turkey's Africa strategy, we are focused on the good relationship, strategic development. So we'd like to do this. We'd like to change this to an asset with American companies. So there's a big window of opportunity there in the post-COVID period as well. So we are ready to cooperate. And Başar is back while I jumped in. Thank you for the invitation as well. Bye.
Başar, last comments before we leave. Are you on? I think we are still. Yeah, he has some connection issues, but as also Ebru mentioned, Turkey has been, developing relations with Africa in the past 20 years. Turkish Airlines is flying to almost every country, and the embassies are opening in the past 20 years in almost every country, and that's a strategic approach from the Turkish government, and that's why the trade increased a lot. And Başar, last comments before we close. Başar, can we get your last comments before we close? I think he doesn't hear. We are trying to get Başar online. Somehow this system runs on US. I think it was recommended by US Chamber, and then runs on India, some server. Başar, can you hear us? Anyway, I think we can wrap up because I'm sure he will also give his good intentions, as Ebru and Aiden mentioned. Başar, can you hear us? We want to hear your last comments before we close. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up. And thanks for all joining. Thanks all the participants. Thanks to all the sponsors who have been sponsoring these events. This is a first to do the conference online. I'm sure there are some technical difficulties that we don't understand, but no matter, we will try to develop relations and hopefully we're looking forward to the days that we can do face-to-face normal conference, and then hopefully we will feel much better. Thank you very much, and we are going to wrap up the session now.